This is from my high school Facebook buddy. You get a few that sort of just message you once in a while, like, I was thinking about you. And you're going like, why? What, well, what incident? What was it about? And the polite request is, hey, a few months ago you promised to tell us, I'm assuming that must be hubby, your life story, because we're so curious about you and your weird life. In other words, we're really bored living in Idaho, and satisfaction isn't derived just from everyday social media and politics. We need the Ultra Being Philosophy, Mike'sMastermind.com. So I don't know. I'm going to respond, but basically the request was, and I remember this was actually a year and a half ago, or was it during COVID? At least, okay, 18 months ago, a year and a half ago. I was saying I'm going to create a bio page, and it was going to be called About Me's, plural, right? .com, About Me's. Because in the different sectors of worlds that I've sort of participated or manifested or, beam me up, Scotty, landed in, I've been called different names. Now that's, you know, typical protocol course of life. You might get called certain names, but I'm talking about nicknames. And so I'm going to give this to you really quick, and this is sort of my gift, which I'll probably put one day on aboutmes.com, assuming one, I get that site done, and two, I find this particular recording at the time to connect the two. All right, so I'm having a bit of jolly fun because watching Jon Stewart's YouTube summary a couple days ago. He's back on Monday nights. So anyway, that's all plug for that, but it was really pretty good. It's just like well written. I guess they got a lot of time between having to do a daily show. They just do it once a week. Here's his appearance. We've got this down. AboutMes.com. So the nickname scenario sort of starts off when I was a kid. My dad called me Oogie. I don't quite know why, but relatives have confirmed that you were Oogie. Oogie, little Oogie running around. So who knows, because I can't recall what kind of charlatan fun I was creating at that time. But I bet it was something to be called Oogie. Oogie! I like it, kind of. Don't call me Oogie now. It's kind of like an ancient name. Uncle Oogie, maybe, if you were my stepchild nephew. All right, so this is what we're going to be doing. Just moving on, I can just being the rat, because last name Ratner was pretty common. And I remember at 9, and maybe also at 10, because I went to Camp Shy. Yeah, that's where everyone stood in the corner, facing, wearing funny hats. No. It was Camp Shy. It was just a name, but it wasn't SHY, it was CHI. Well, whenever something happened, they would notice that I was always pretty much smiley kid, because I thought, well, that's the best way to be, even at that age, to have a positive attitude. But also, they think, like, this kid must be covering up something. So when something did occur, the theme song, was Ratner did it, Ratner did it, Ratner did it. I laugh now thinking about it because at the time I go, oh, damn, man, I'm caught. But actually, keep smiling, man. Just keep covering up and then laughing because they're singing about you. All right. Well, so now we enter the radio phase. Cause I remember in high school, another dude who had a nickname got called that when he would just, this was WeFM.com, you got to call in 3:30, 4 o'clock on maybe a Wednesday or Thursday, and you got to tell the joke. And I thought that was like the coolest thing. Now, I wasn't necessarily thinking about calling myself any new nicknames, let's just be me, Mike. But when I joined the Wizard radio station, which is coming up with their 50th anniversary celebration, and I'm partaking because I'm part of the 41st, like the presidential number. I was uh, there. Well, actually, I left at that time to go to San Francisco, but plus I graduated from the school where the station was hosted, WZRD-FM at Northeastern Illinois University in Chicago. So you weren't supposed to say your name on that radio station. So there went all my ego ambitions. But I did sort of kick it off with my best friend Billy and roommate at the time. That's 1980, 81, I guess, where we got a Sunday show following Terry Nelson, whose show he got called Sunday Morning Nightmare, which you weren't even supposed to name your shows. But it was Sunday, it was block programming. They all did it because it was mostly public affairs. And you got to sort of name what that is. So, not to diverge or I digress, We were the Quick Rat Sausage Show. We didn't say our names, but that was already violating things. And to save the show and the integrity, I then ran for program director. Because my other shows, and whenever anyone did a show during the week, you weren't anybody but the Wizard. Hey, you're listening to the Wizard, you know. That was as far as you got to being a DJ by quote-unquote names. We were Wizards special because we didn't see our names on the air. And we could play whatever damn music we wanted as long as no other radio station played it. How's that for criteria? And you give your 5 minutes of news every hour from alternative magazines, about 30 to 50, I forget the count, of alternative news magazines. You know, just could name them off, you know, like Mother Joan types, but even more underground and covert. Fantastic. I wonder if they still got it. Anyway, this anniversary coming up, I was just having to be sort of the wizard. And now being an ex-wizard, I created a website called oncewizards.com, which I'll be interviewing my cohorts at that period of time, whether we reveal our real names or not. I'll be Wizard X. But yeah, you have to sort of own it and sort of say, okay, I'll be the producer of it because I was the program director at that time, and we'll talk about it, whoever wants to come on the show. So we get to be revealed. But so going to San Francisco and going on, I just want to summarize it really quickly. You know, as you know, I started hanging out with motivation speakers and people who sort of like were really successful, at least in the world of producing seminars and selling books like that, personal growth and self-development. I got known as Mike Rich, the Success Club dude. He promotes big name seminar speakers. Mike Rich. And so they started calling you. So you got your moniker in that regard. And you adapt it. Like, all right, I'm Mike Rich. In that world, wearing the shiny suits and ties. But when you took it off, you weren't. Just like in the radio world, you know. Some people talk like this on the air, and they're not supposed to when they get off. So depending on how you get off. So in hanging out and wanting to look for an alternative version to Mike Rich, this is now in L.A., sort of the origins in the late 80s or 90s. This is mid-90s now. Because I moved in 95 to L.A. from Chicago. Sort of giving up the Success Club, but still working for the motivation speakers. I'm trying to think, like, what do I do for fun to express myself and sort of keep that creative beat attitude, you know? So I was Byron Blake. So I had a name for a moniker for that sort of 90s Gen X type, you know, alternative lifestyle fiction. Not that you had to be one way or another. It's just sort of, you had that characteristic of the beat into the 80s analogy. And those stories came out of that sort of sense of alternativeness. Lord Byron and William Blake manifesting together in the modern day, right? So, yeah. Anyway, we'll have a whole thing about that at some point. Maybe I'll read some of that work. So now what number are we up to? Oogie, the rat, Mike Rich, well, the wizard, and the anonymous wizard, yeah, right, this is a good point, Byron Blake. So keeping with that anonymity thing, you know, what would happen would be if someone wanted to take your picture, you kind of avoided it. So you missed out a lot of period of your life where you could have had some cool clothes to show off, but no, we don't do the pictures. But now you kind of go like, well, you know, if we're going to go online and promote whatever image we are, we have to present that particular context of whatever that illustration would be. So Byron Blake, something off-putting, and, you know, I don't know, would it be dressed like a 17th century person who had a time machine and came forward to this period of time? Or would it be somebody who, on a Seinfeld episode, would say, well, if I would be adopted that lifestyle, I'd have to wear a lot of colored clothing, and I would just be all, you know, all over myself, you know. So whatever that represented, Byron Blake was fictional and represented itself so in the stories of what it would write. And along that time, wanting to also sort of like look for the alternative underground mysterious spiritual guru, I ran into a tribal elder who said, you got to meet a shaman in the East Village of New York and hang out with him. Because we'll give you all the wisdom you need. And of course, I had to put that to the challenge, like try to meet this person and really see if I could like get the better. Because if they lost it, they'd be like, well, you're no guru. But this guy, you know, put me up to the test. And so I became the Grey Wolf in the tribal tradition as a moniker. You could say, hey, Grey Wolf's showing up. In that tradition, I do talk about Tales of the Grey Wolf, another book of those episodes, because what an adventure that was in the latter 90s and early 2000s. Well, Gray, the Seminole tradition of Oklahoma, was sort of told to me as being invisible. Gray is the mist, sort of the sky, the fog. But what is it that's in the mist of something? And you see a wolf. To us, it's a teacher. And the gray wolf is special in this regard because they're invisible. So you show up, people don't see you, gray wolf, in the way that you know that they should, perhaps. And only those that can kind of connect to you on that level will appreciate that when you show up, it's meaningful. For some reason, you're heard. It's like, whoa, that's pretty cool, man. Well, so we can go on with these things, but these gems lend itself to, is yes, the about me sort of divided up and not sort of in a schizophrenic sense, because one would be aware of being on stage or presenting themselves to a particular marketplace versus another one, and sort of you have a different identity, so there wouldn't be confusion in the product line, right? This is light beer. No. This is the carbonated, extra, non-sweetened, don't drink it, chemical soda. Whatever branding this comes out, it's just a personal plate for myself. It's sort of like, well, as you show up and you identify with the punk teen that wants to talk about your wizard days versus someone who's on psychedelics and loves doing sweat lodges and hanging out, in nature, wants to know what wisdom the gray wolf brings. Well, here we have my Gretner PhD is, what kind of identity would this be? Talking about some kind of ultravine wisdom and stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, moment to moment, day to day, no matter what your interactions or situations, having this sort of sense of identity, which ID that I talk about is internal dialogue. The playoff is sort of like, well, if you're in a setting where you're having fun, and play is what it's all about, because we're playing into a role and sort of expectations of the moment, whether it's societal or just among that particular group of friends in the bar, throwing darts at a board. Drink up, drink up, drink up. No, I'm just kidding. Just sort of getting back to whatever identities you play at. The question is, in the ID, is this being aware that you're doing this, and this becomes quality of being because you have a recognition of the ID, which basically is internal dialogue, is to have some semblance of what you're saying to yourself about yourself. So if I'm presenting myself in a certain way, in a certain tie, because I'm going to have to speak to a group, I've got my notes assembled, I'm on time, and I'm presentable, maybe some breath spray. Just sort of saying that, this sort of how you show up is creating sort of a semblance I talk about as metasphere. It's the significance and power of presence. So if we could have a practice of how we're present, this truly becomes an unfolding process of gifting oneself fully in the way that we're capable. And this becomes an ability. So we talk about these things, and it's fun to share about the about me's because there are some interesting stories. And it was taught to me by these wisdom elders to say, well, if you have something that helps move people forward towards what is that they desire in life, their breakthrough, their goals, and it's supportive in the way that they're able to see a fuller perspective, then you really are living with purpose. And you're on in this way, right? Versus off-putting, off-kiltering. There could be moments for that, right? Whoa, the buoyancy, the winds are blowing, something's going on. As you're able to hold steady, at least to recognize identity, right? How things are portrayed and confirmed in your identity, which is ID, internal dialogue. You become aware of what you're saying yourself about yourself, or what you're perceiving other people to say, and therefore you kind of check in. Do I have this right? I'm hearing you say it this way, or your perspective is this way, or your concern is about this or that. Do I have it right? Because that check-in to confirm rather than to assume is key. And of course, you lend yourself into the space where you have permission to be there. You've had this tie energy that I've talked about. We all want to have a great relationship tie. The key is to have a karma-free tie. TIE. Is this a good time for us to talk? Can we make some time? And you might agree to a certain time and length of time. And you check in. Are we still having a good time? Because the I in the tie is really important. Is this of interest to you? Do I have your really best intentions here that we're going to work through this? And then we're tuned to this ID, right? How am I identifying with this experience and situation? The E in the tie, TIE, time. Is this a good time? Is this still of interest? Hopefully it is. And the E, I mean, gosh, it's the entertainment of the enlightened moment. No, it's the